My Chemical Romance is touring again, so I'm going to read you a story I could have given more thought to. Hi, this is Half-Baked Tales, where I write and read one halfway thought-through short story every week. They're not always good, and that is the point. Last week, I introduced you to my character, Karen, from the stage show We Are All Florida Man by Blue McElroy, playing this August at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I'll put a ticket link in the show notes, or you can search for it on the Ed Fringe website. The show is called We Are All Florida Man. I've been in rehearsals the past 2 weeks and have been using the short story structure that I use for Half-Baked Tales to flesh out Karen's backstory. I am entirely burnt out from the brilliant insanity of this show, so this week I'm pulling out a story from my archives. A little bit of absurdist body horror as Leighton, a sex worker, showers off a day's work. Trigger warnings here, body dysmorphia and mild sexual content. Here it is, Half-Baked Tale number 37. It's on display. Like a petulant child, this man wouldn't stop staring at the woman's belly button. He was wearing a brown suit, one only a middle-aged man would choose, and was looming over a table on which the woman was patiently waiting for him to take a body shot. Generic house music was pumping through the wall speakers and filtering in from the club floor. The steady beat pounded around him, the room moving to its flow while he stood stationary, still fixated on her middle. His co-workers had given themselves over to the club's vibe, tossing off their jackets and undoing the top buttons on their shirts. They moved in an expected rhythm under the flashing colored lights, one that the other working girls weaved through and imperceptibly manipulated. But this man, with his brown suit jacket still crisp from the office, was refusing to be swept away. So the two remained as they were, the woman enticingly on the table, and him as the naval inspector. The 10 or so party of his co-workers were enjoying the secluded back room far more than he was. They drank and grabbed the girls and cheered when puffs of smoke filled the space. He, however, was standing dangerously on the edge of a spotlight which illuminated the display of the woman placed on the table. He sometimes squinted at the brightness of it and occasionally pivoted his neck around, assumingly seeking camaraderie from one of his co-workers. His mouth, green as a monster, flickered into a sneer as he watched some of them groping the working women. "Here we are, sweet cheeks," shouted one of the other men who had slick back hair and Botox. He sauntered past the belly button inspecting man, clapping him on the back like a war veteran. A fashionably dressed woman had entered holding a frosty bottle of Grey Goose, Sweet Cheeks, as the men had nicknamed her when she had escorted them to their private room. The vodka was the last element to complete the body shot, but the naval inspector didn't seem too happy that his moment had come. He stood as a great contrast to his comrade, who'd taken up a post on the opposite side of the table, his arm draped over Sweet Cheek's shoulder. The two men maintained eye contact while he pinched the nipple of the woman on the table. The bottle cracked when opened, and vodka smoked cold as Sweet Cheeks poured a steady stream down Botox's tongue. "Your turn," he said, licking his fingers. The naval inspector followed his eyes down to the woman on the table, tummy up. She was like a statue, a doll. The vodka was poured and began to pool, a sinking crevice, an innie, tight and suctioning downwards. It folded in at several places, hiding corners of itself. Sweet Cheeks stroked his cheek. "Drink fast, like this," she said, placing the vodka bottle aside and leaning down to slurp the first shot. But his attention was not diverted. He watched again as liquid filled every nook and cranny of the woman's navel. "How often do you wash it?" he blurted, as though the words had suddenly sprouted from his lips. He was speaking to the woman on the table, who picked her head up slightly to indicate she'd heard him. She told him she was, of course, very clean. "Dead skin cells, dust, crumbs," he said, listing off the various bits that could collect in a belly button, even referring on occasion to his own navel. "Do you know how easily all that gets stuck in all kinds of places? I don't diligently clean mine. I doubt you do yours." He motioned towards her body, displayed, as it was, as a vessel for vodka. Her beautiful face hid behind her blank eyes as she said, "How do you want me then?" Leighton always showered after work. Some girls got home and collapsed into bed, then deep cleansed in the morning, but Leighton preferred not to sleep in all the grime. She wondered if she ought to have told this to the belly-button shy man earlier. Long past any pretense of embarrassment, Leighton made a mental note to mention this to any customers concerned with cleanliness. The shower was Leighton's time to meditate. From the top of her head to the tips of her toes, the night's work was shed. She cleaned meticulously, beginning from the center of her scalp, then working outward and down. Hair, face, teeth, mouth, neck, groin, knees, toes. Her sponge lingered on her belly button, and she began to wonder about the man from earlier, whether he kisses others, pleasures them, how he feels about coffee mugs in public spaces. Absently, she prodded at the folds in her navel, uncovering bits and allowing watery soap to rush between them. Hidden away amongst these folds, she found a single piece of fluff, like a dust bunny. It was picking up moisture from the shower steam in its fibers. She plucked it, but it was longer than she had expected. She tugged at it, and it elongated, revealing itself to be a dirty string. She yanked on it more and more as a pile of string protruding from her middle began piling on the shower floor. The more she pulled, the thicker it got. At first she had used just her forefinger and thumb to pull, but the string was slowly evolving into a thick rope. Her thumb and forefinger weren't strong enough to tug it out of her belly button. She needed the full weight of both her fists to tug, provide leverage, and tug again on the impossibly long rope protruding from her belly button. A fullness she had never noticed before began to wane the more she pulled. A need to expel this foreign object she had no idea she was carrying around took hold of her, and she pulled frantically at it. When she finally reached the end, it came fully out with a pop, and her body erupted. Her belly button, red and sore, began to quiver, subtly at first, then manically. Giant bubbling tremors were erupting outwards in her skin, her belly button as their epicenter. Then the fat came. Pounds and pounds of fat. Globs of it flowed forward from her center. It pushed at the inside of her skin, stretching it and forcing her stomach to take up more space than it ever had before. The fat of her stomach was never ending. It fell out and down. It drooped and blocked the drain. It pressed against the shower doors. It filled the shower tray and left no place for Leighton to stand. Having finally emptied the entirety of itself from Leighton's insides, the fat made a pillow of the spools of lint and rope that had once held it at bay. Leighton collapsed face forward on them both and slipped into a sweet dream. That was Half-Baked Tale number 37, It's on Display. I pulled this one out from my archives because my creative brain has been absolutely exhausted from rehearsals. I had been planning to share part 2 of Squirrely Girl, which was last week's story. Go back and listen if you missed it. But I got a new idea for the direction I wanted to take with Squirrely Girl Part 2. I literally thought of it on Sunday, and I have not had the time or the energy to get it down on paper. So I'm just meeting myself exactly where I'm at and doing what I need to do in order to deliver the weekly podcast. So that means pulling from my archives, back to my normal shenanigans next week when rehearsals are over. I shared this story, it's on display, as written text only on my Substack back in January, and I've been wanting to get it properly recorded into the podcast space, so this is the perfect time for it. That first draft had the first section entirely from the naval inspector, the man in the brown suit's perspective. He had a whole name, Drucker, and his co-workers had names, but when I revisited it, when I was looking over it, I really hated how much emphasis that put on his character and how much agency it gave him. I wanted him a lot more separated, so I rewrote it with a bit more distance. If I were to take another crack at this story, I definitely want to speak with some sex workers about what it's like managing their clientele. I'd also really like to revisit the ending where Leighton's body distorts itself. That part is entirely driven by my own experience with body dysmorphia, and I find it very hard to write about with honesty. So, another short podcast this week, but I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed next week with a whole new story and a much longer debriefing section. If you enjoy these weekly podcasts, if you like listening to my short stories and ramblings, please like, follow, comment, or review via whatever platform you listen on, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Substack, or YouTube, or suggest a different platform if that's where you find your podcasts normally. At this early stage in the podcast, the goal is to reach new audience members who want to hear what I have to say, and your engagement manipulates the algorithm into connecting me with them. So let's manipulate the algorithm ourselves for once, instead of being manipulated by it. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.